of the wait. All right, we are live. So welcome everybody. We've managed to technology once again. Thanks for joining us, whether it's morning, evening, afternoon, night time, your time. It's great to have you here. And obviously we have the boss with us, Kevin. Kevin's with us to help go over a lot of stuff, and we also have Matthew, COO, here as well. Myself, Joe, community manager. So we're going to go through effectively today, covering off on all things XTalk. You know, what is XTalk? How does it differ? What does it look like? How does it fit into the ecosystem of crypto, and how does it benefit you as a community member as well? So we've got that on the agenda. We've got our liquidity bootstrapping on the agenda as well, and Matthew's going to give us a really good overview of what that is. And also we have a live testing of effectively XTalk as well. So we've got a heap of good things on the list to show the community. So let's kick off straight over to you, Kevin. Let's dive into some of the overview of XTalk itself.
Yeah, and thanks, everyone for joining in. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are. So this session, what we'll do is, I'm no Picasso, but I've tried to put together some flowchart so that the community members even understand the rationale behind XTalk, like why we started that off. And we'll go through some good questions around the competition. We'll go through some questions around the security, speed, and we'll keep a track through the flowchart. And if anyone wants the flowchart, I'm happy to share that as well. So you can view that on your computer. Yeah, so I'll just share my screen.
I think that sounds good, Kevin. I think it's interesting. It would be interesting to hear about maybe why XTalk was created. What gaps you saw, the kind of needs in the market.
Yeah, definitely. Okay, can you see my screen?
Yes,
I can see it.
Okay. All right. So first, let's just understand, I think I should have done this earlier, but anyways, what even is a bridge, right? Or how did that even come into existence? Because once we understand that, we will understand why XTalk exists, right? So for all the people out there, typically how a transaction is processed is, now this is a very high level overview, right? The transaction manager is the first piece of software that a user or a system will interact with. This transaction manager is responsible to take that piece of transaction and pass it to the virtual machine. The virtual machine and the database or the state, they are connected with each other and they talk to each other. When the state is actually updated, that means a transaction has been completed. There is something called as an event, which is a log that is processed. That is typically the output of something, right? Now, when we talk about cross-chain, there are two main pieces of technology that come together to enable transfer of information or data from one piece of blockchain to the other. In terms of the timeline, oracles were introduced before we had bridges, right? And the work of oracle is validation. So if any data comes out from your Web 2 world versus also from the Web 3 world, right? You have different blockchains here. The oracle takes that piece of information and validates it. Now, the only way to validate that is, again, through a consensus system, right? So you have your own set of oracle nodes that validate it. Now, this was all well and good. But once there were multiple layer ones that were introduced, this is when the information was supposed to be passed along from one blockchain to the other. Meaning, how do I take this event that I have and pass it on to another blockchain, right? This is where relayers come in. And if you think about it, right, Chainlink is an example of an oracle. When you add a relayer to an oracle, that is equal to a bridge. So oracle plus relayer is equal to bridge. And that is where technologies like layer 0 come in. Now, this is great because what has happened over here is there is a flow that has been established, which is verification, communication, and execution. And what happens over here is this. When I verify something and when I communicate that verified data, each and every blockchain will pick that up and execute it. The problem here is there has to be another form of execution in between verification and communication. And the reason for that is we are relying on layer 1s to process transactions. But when you try to build applications, bridges are great for cross-chain application, but XTalk focuses on multi-chain applications. There's a difference. So if you are aiming for cross-chain information sharing, a bridge would do the job. But if you want your application to be multi-chain, meaning based on various conditions, based on various asset positioning on various other chains, your application has to be multi-chain. And this is where XTalk adds a layer of execution between verification and communication. And we'll see with an example, later on as well. Now, if you think about it, technology in isolation is great, but imagine if your Apple operating system used a different calling app for something else, used a different messaging app for something else, and used a different form of database from somewhere else. I'm not talking about third-party apps. I'm talking about their native applications, right? So as the timeline processed, bridges were great at what they did, but there is a new set of demand that has come through, which is we now need to build a multi-chain application. And this is where XTalk comes in, because sure, you can go and build 15 smart contracts. For example, you can have Polkadot or Polygon here. You can use Chainlink and layer 0, and then you can use another blockchain. But the advantage of a technology is also considering the fact of time, cost, and energy that we actually need to provide for scalability. Because if it's not according to the time, cost, and energy, the scalability wouldn't matter. And that's why we have XTalk, which is an integrated part of our L1X system that allows you to add a layer of execution between verification and communication. And that not only increases the speed of things, but that also increases the flexibility on how we build decentralized applications.
So Kieran, can I just add to that? So is it similar like, let's say you've almost got one bridge per river. I've got a river to cross. I've got to build one bridge to cross this river, another bridge to cross this river, and another bridge to cross this river. With XTalk, we basically say, here's a plane. You can cross any river you want because this plane can go anywhere. Is that like the infrastructure on a bridge is set between 2 points, whereas XTalk gives you almost universal access?
Yeah, because if you think about it, right? Yeah, that's a great analogy. And if you think about it, let's say there are two countries, right, trying to come up with a policy. Let's say Australia and maybe China. Now, you don't build a policy and ship the policy across. You come together and try to build that policy together so that both accept it. In a bridge, you build it in one place and ship it to the other. The other person again builds something else and ships it across. So this level of execution that both have to come together and decide on various things, that does not exist. So this is where XTalk comes in, because they can't go to Singapore and let Singapore decide for themselves, or they can't only rely on Australia. So this is where a buffer has to be created between these two people that allows them to bring what they have, execute certain things, and take back what they require.
Right. And with XTalk, it's almost like the UN, where all these countries can come together no matter what language you speak, communicate, agree, and then execute.
Exactly. And they don't have to rely on third-party applications like to take, imagine Australia and China relied on US to communicate between them, right? I think it would be an interesting conversation. So that's where you don't have to rely on third-party, because the more third-party applications you rely on in a core infrastructure, right? That's when, security, that's when speed, and that's where scalability starts hampering down. Yeah.
So is it worth maybe then, because I know a lot of the community and a lot of people talk about, well, what is the difference between, layer 1X's XTalk and layer 0? What's the difference between XTalk and Cosmos, XTalk and Polkadot, XTalk and Chainlink? And I know you might be repeating yourself on some of these answers, but let's specifically look at maybe each of those and say, okay, what is the difference between XTalk, layer 1X's XTalk, and layer 0?
Yeah, no problem. Yeah, so let's say Chainlink, right? Chainlink focuses on data verification and transmission to the contracts. Now, let's say you want the price of Ethereum into your contract. That is where Chainlink does it great. It's good at doing it. And I think if you just want that, you should definitely go ahead with that. But the problem is you are bringing in the value of Ethereum coin to do something. It could be to measure it against an asset that you have on your Web2 technology. It could be against asset on Web3 technology, or it could be, for, let's say, just a swap, right? This is when you need a relayer. Now, Chainlink does offer relayers in a way, but then someone builds a Web2 technology around Chainlink to do that, or then they go towards layer 0. So if you just want Oracle service, Chainlink is okay. But then again comes the question about scalability, right? Because you can pick a technology and build on it, but later on, if you need to migrate to a technology because your requirements increase, and requirements always increase, we all know that, right? So then you've got to pick another technology that can accommodate that requirement. And that is where XTalk comes through.
That's on Chainlink as well. I've heard them talk about Chainlink trying to push this narrative of, it's better to have multiple different systems connecting multiple different chains and have some sort of, risk management system over each of these kind of links, these bridges basically between one chain and another, having an individual risk management system. And I know they're trying to push that. But is that because they don't have the ability to customize the rule management because they don't have a virtual machine that can actually translate between multiple different chains? They have to create those individual systems and risk management systems, whereas our virtual machine can actually create rules and conditions between any chain.
That's right. And that's one of the main reasons why we have a VM as well, right? Because as I mentioned, your technology as a plugin is great, but today we are not trying to build, today we are not trying to build a system where we think multi-chain or cross-chain ability is an addendum to my, principled or fundamental technology. It's an integrated part. So I think it's okay to consider the fact that, okay, these technologies have to be separate, but what does comprise, an integrated technology into the fundamental? That is the positioning we are in right now. So that's why I think it's important to have these fundamentals within a layer. Yeah.
And I suppose the benefit of that as well, because the layer 1 allows applications to build upon it, then those applications directly tap in to the interoperability, right? So because I can't build a game on top of Stargate, I can't build it or Stargate Finance, so I can't build I can bridge between chains, but what layer 1X offers is the connectivity and the ability to build upon that connectivity for each application.
Exactly. You can verify your data, you can relay your data, and you can execute with XTalk. You don't have to rely on Chainlink or layer 0 for anything. So, but it does like there are like these three important parts that you have to do. So you have to verify, you got to communicate, and you have to execute data while you are doing these things. So Chainlink focuses on verification. XTalk does all three. Layer 0 focuses on verification and relaying, two things. XTalk does all three. And that's the main difference between Chainlink over here and XTalk, because we have our own listener nodes, we have our own signer nodes, and we have our own full validator nodes. And that is what allows you to build a multi-chain application. Like, just by having the execution between the verification and communication allows you to build applications like no one else will allow you to do that.
Because and I know another major difference between us and let's say Layer 0 and Chainlink is the fact that we connect EVM and non-EVM. So whereas they're very much EVM-based solutions, right? We're connecting chains that are compatible at some level with each other. What part of our infrastructure enables that connection between EVM and non-EVM? That's
a very good question. The execution allows that. Because the execution is, think of it as a smart, translator, where it kind of gets it where, okay, if I receive an event from Ethereum and now the verification is done, it goes into execution. We know where you want to send this data. So then this translation happens through this adapter process where regardless of what virtual machine you are at, our VM can understand that and translate it for you. And that is why you can build a multi-chain application with us.
And it's interesting. So really at the key, and that's why by building the virtual machine from the ground up, and no one else has this virtual machine technology, by building the virtual machine from the ground up with the thought process of we have to connect any chain, EVM, non-EVM, allows us to come up with this. And I know for the community, I don't know if they've seen the announcement, but we now have a partnership, auditing partnership with Hashlock, who their first task is to do the audit on the virtual machine. And I know they're actually pretty excited about that because it's new tech.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to that as well. Like, we have done intensive testing from our side. Now, we haven't actually faced like major issues, so looking forward to that.
And then, sorry, I'm jumping in here, Joe, but so that's got a Layer 0. That's Chainlink. Then there's a slightly different structure with Cosmos, right? Cosmos and Polkadot, and how do we kind of differ to those sort of solutions?
Okay. Yeah. Now think of a scenario where let's take the same example of Australia and China, right? Now, Chainlink and Polkadot, although offer similar things in different frameworks, the objective is the same, right? So what will happen in the example is, if you compare it to the example, is Australia goes to China and says, don't worry about your policy. You just come and build your policy in Australia and we'll recognize it together, right? And then it goes to US and says, don't worry about your policy. You come to us and you build it on our infrastructure, and then we are interoperable, right? That's what you wanted. So we are interoperable. Now, still, the problem is, if you want to communicate between a country that does not actually follow Australian policy, then you will have to use someone to verify and relay that information back to that country. So the problem is still not gone. The problem still exists. Now, this would be great if the government takes the view that, all right, all the businesses have to adopt this level of technology for me to understand your state or your business records. That is a great implementation right there. But in an open source world, you can't lock people and say, this is how you build it, and this is how exactly you need to do this. Because even with the Mac operating system as we see right now, they went with a constrained environment and it failed. They opened up the environment where people can plug in their own set of hardware and it succeeded. And even Windows operating system and Linux follows that. So, and I feel this is one of the main reasons why the transactions are not actually picking up in Cosmos and Polkadot from the last few years, sure, you got transactions going on, but the growth of blockchain systems is compounding. So if you don't see a compounding effect in the results, that means maybe it may never reach there. It's just trying to push against the hill. Whereas Ethereum has found its spot where, we are going to focus on archival systems, and that's where it's, pushing it. And what Layer 1X does is it has its own virtual machine. It allows you to build with us. You can actually spin up your own private network or your own system with L1X. But at the same time, it doesn't restrict you that you need to follow this fundamentals only if you want to build a blockchain. Out of 100 applications, there may be only 5 of them that actually need to go down to the consensus level and change everything. 95 of the applications don't need to do that. So we are not after that 5 applications. We are after those 95 applications. So our target audience is different.
So really, a lot of it some of it at least comes down to compatibility, right? Where Cosmos, you have to implement IBC, or you've got to build on the Cosmos SDK. And with Polkadot, you've got to become a parachain. So I like to use a similar analogy where you've got all these different countries all speaking different languages. And really what Cosmos and Polkadot are saying, hey guys, let's all learn Chinese, or let's all learn Italian so we can understand and communicate with each other. It's not feasible. It restricts people from innovating themselves or nurturing their own native language, where we say, let's just put a universal translator in the middle of everybody, continue to speak your native language, but now you can understand everyone. And
Exactly. Imagine if Google Translator forced you to learn a language. That is not the objective. The objective is to understand. It's not to learn the new language.
That's really good in terms of the differences between those. So let's say with the cross-chain swaps.
Yeah.
So how does XTalk power the swaps, and the features within there, and maybe explaining, and I know maybe you've already done this a little bit, what are some of the mechanics behind what makes the cross-chain swaps so powerful?
I have again, as I said, I'm not a Picasso, but I've tried to put together something for the community. Okay, now let's walk through the flow, right? And while we walk through the flow, we'll understand as well, we'll pick up, let's say, Cosmos, or we'll pick up, any of these guys, right? And understand how they would do it as well, right? So let's just focus on this part here, right? The listener node is subscribed. So there is a contract that actually allows you to go and tell the listener node, this is the address of my smart contract on any of the chain that I want you to subscribe to and listen to. So if there is a transaction happening of a cross-chain swap, someone has transferred Ethereum into a contract, this listener node is listening to that event. Once the listener node listens to that event, the listener engine comes into play. Treat of the listener engine as a manager. What the listener manager does is, all right, the transaction has happened. It puts it into a scheduler, meaning like a mempool, right? After it goes into the scheduler, it goes into the signature process where multiple listener nodes come together and select a leader and verify this information that I have received from this block number, from this source chain, for this address. Is it the same for all of you or not? If it works, if it is the same, they all sign it. The leader, signs it and sends it to the L1X VM. Now, this is where your Oracle systems and relayers will come in, right? So you don't have to use Chainlink. You don't have to use Layer 0. You can use the L1X infrastructure straight away. Now, you have the L1X VM where we have two important functions, right? The save event data allows us to save that event into our database, but now it kind of understands, right, what to do with this. Where are you wanting to go? right? So it's like a way of saying the source chain doesn't need to know about the destination chain. And that's a great thing to have, because if I write a message, right, for someone and I don't know the address of that person, it's perfect. Because if I knew the address of that person, that is where even security concerns can come through. But anyways, it goes to the L1X VM, where if you have some proprietary computation or proprietary changing of value to be done, at that point in time, the L1X VM can take care of it. For example, if a user transfers 1,000 USDC, give him an NFT. The source chain doesn't need to know this. That's not the job of the source chain, right? Give him an NFT on, let's say, Binance chain. So this takes that logic and prepares the payload. The payload is what the destination chain needs to understand. The signer node picks it up. Now, again, there is another level of abstraction here. The VM does not sign it, right? It does not sign it. The signer node comes in and says, okay, I've got the event. I'm going to sign the payload. This is where businesses or users can sign that particular payload, meaning who is responsible to do this. So if somebody is hosting a NFT contract, so who is responsible to sign this contract if money is received? This thing is automated, right? And then it is sent to the smart contract on the destination chain. We have management errors over there as well. For example, if there is an RPC error, usually there is a lot of RPC errors like Alchemy, and Infura. They are down like a lot of the times. And there is a way on how we reattempt the transaction after that point in time as well. So this is from the start till the end. But one important thing, when the event is fulfilled, like, okay, swap has been completed, it not only updates the L1X VM state, it can also go and tell the developer that the event has completed, where this contract doesn't need to get the information back from the destination contract. It's done its job. The destination contract did its job. And now the L1X VM updates the state where the developer doesn't need to keep a track on 3 different places. He just keeps a track on one place in terms of where my transaction is in the process. And that's a great thing to have, because right now it's as simple as a swap. But tomorrow, if there is a monetary policy that the governments are trying to build or enterprises trying to create insurance products, there are so many departments that can't see what each others are doing, right? And in this way, a developer can keep a track on a central place to follow along the journey of where my transaction is.
And then, so with this structure, and I've noticed a couple of comments there in the chat. So is this is this swap based on a burn and mint structure, or is it entirely native transfer?
All right. So the swap that we have right now, it's not burn and mint. It's just receiving the asset on the source chain and transferring that asset on the destination chain. But it again depends on the use case, because the XTalk engine is like the, think of it as a click, right? You can use a click to open a folder. You can use a click to select something. You can use a click to send. The XTalk engine is pretty modular. You can fit various applications to that particular engine. So if you want to mint and burn, you can do that. If you just want to teleport, you can teleport as well.
So it's quite versatile with, however, I suppose whatever structure suits your need best and what you're trying to achieve cross-chain, it's modular, so you can adapt what's needed. So let's say NFTs. Now, maybe it's worth explaining. So whether it's a token, whether it's an NFT, whether it's logic from a smart contract going cross-chain, is it basically like a similar process just with a different type of asset? Like, how does that work? Is it different with an NFT to a token? Is it different with smart contract logic to an NFT?
Yeah. Okay. So what happens over here is, when you are saving this event data, right? This event data is a smart contract. Like, it is stored in a smart contract. Now, based on a condition where you want to transfer an NFT, that is in a different smart contract. So you can call that smart contract when the save event data is saved, and that smart contract will take that particular NFT, right, the payload, and go to the Binance chain to mint a similar NFT for you.
Mm-hmm.
Or you can do a trigger, which is save event data and mint the NFT for this user who has transferred the money on Binance. That is a payload that goes to the NFT contract on the Binance chain and mints it. Now, when you mint that, there are validators in terms of verifying who can mint it, right? So the signer node allows you to have the ability to go to the destination chain and mint that NFT for this specific user. And these are triggers that you can place in your VM based on various conditions. And this is the layer between the verification and communication.
Yes, yeah, which allows you to do certain things, because it's almost, and just correct me if I'm wrong, but it's almost like how you would have one blockchain set up where one smart contract is talking to another smart contract on the same chain. What we're basically doing is we're allowing that sort of structure to happen across multiple different chains. So now, and what allows that to happen between incompatible chains is this event data, the execution, where it can be updated and translated to the destination chain so it's understood, and that function can then be executed on that destination chain, whichever smart contract it's decided to interact with. So, so it's almost all logic, really. Like what we're doing is we're saying, if I want to transfer a token, the first one is put BNB in the BNB pool on Binance Smart Chain and pull out Solana on the Solana chain. That's a message or a conditional message. That's logic communicating between two smart contracts to perform a function. NFT would be the same, right?
Yeah, and the whole tenet of this ledger, decentralized ledger, is based on the fact that the cost of breaking should be more than the rewards that you receive, right? So you can do this with Oracle and let's say Chainlink and Relayer from layer 0, or you can just use layer 0 over here. But the problem is then you have to take the heavy lifting of this on some chain, right? You can build a contract directly on Binance as well and do that. Now, what has happened is you got a system where each and everyone knows about everything. If you need to make a change in this system, now let's say you got to go and say, I want to reduce this and introduce a new NFT, a new tier. Now you got to go and rejig the whole system.
Yes.
Right. So the complexity increases every time you want to make a change, and that cost increases. So the cost should always be lower in terms of how you want to scale and adapt to the changing requirements.
And I think that's a really important point for everyone to get, is that the L1X XTalk system, crosstalk system, allows for an experience across multiple chains as if you're on the same chain. So whatever you can do on one chain, if you want to, you've got a game on a chain, you can mint NFTs on that chain, and you can do swaps on that chain. People can play the game that are on that chain, and smart contracts can talk to each other on that chain. Well, the same thing with XTalk. With every chain we're connected to, you can have a game on any chain that we're connected to, and anyone else on any other chain can play that game. Pretty seamlessly. That you can mint NFTs on multiple different chains, and those NFTs can be verified cross-chain, so you can access the game or whatever that is. You can create builders, and this is all for developers, but you can create an experience where you can have a gallery of NFTs that will showcase NFTs across multiple different chains, but in one view. All of these sort of things. So we're really kind of evolving into a single chain experience that aggregates every chain we're connected to, and we can connect any chain. That's powerful. That's extremely powerful. I think I'm just getting it.
Oh, good. Yeah. Oh, good.
So someone's just asking, what's a good example within Web3 terms of a logic transfer? Maybe a couple of use cases. Perfect. I think you've mentioned a couple, but yeah.
I think we'll go through a use case. How about that?
Awesome. Yes. Yeah.
Right?
That's
And we'll go through a use case that we are going to release soon.
yeah.
I kind of thought this question would come up. So again, I'm no Picasso, but bear with me, right? The multi-chain balancer pool, right?
Yeah, great.
And I think this fits in perfectly for us to understand how that logic is required. Like we had thought about, like the way we think about it is, how do we create this without XTalk? And then we had a diagram for that. And then we thought about how do we create it with XTalk, right? So when we looked at the other one without XTalk, it was a mess, meaning there were so many breaking points and no surprise, nobody has done it, right? Because it's so complex, like, you've got to do so many things. Anyways, let's go through the flow and I'll explain you the logic transfer as well over here. Now, the multi-chain balancer pool uses the whole infrastructure, right? It pushes the boundaries of layer 1x technology to, like, our developers were also pretty happy that, okay, there is some application trying to push it. Now, it uses XTalk, it uses L1X VM, it uses L1X EVM, and it uses 2 types of databases, right, to make it fast. Let's say the user deposits $100 worth of USDC into the balancer pool. Now, let's say we have L1X and we have USDC. USDC from Ethereum and L1X in the L1X protocol, right? Now, 2 different tokens put into the same pool. What's going to happen is, first, you got to calculate how many BPT tokens am I even going to receive, right? Like, what is the impact on the pool? In this point of time, from the front end, right, the user goes and queries the balancer, the EVM structure here. And once the user goes and queries that, he gets the BPT tokens. This is what I am going to receive. He confirms, yes, go ahead and start the process. The user will deposit ETH, let's say USDC, that he has to deposit on the Ethereum chain. Now, what's going to happen is, at that point in time, there are certain things that the Ethereum chain will emit out for us, which is, which pool did the user join? What is the sender's address? What is the receiver address to receive BPT tokens? Because this BPT tokens is an L1X EVM, right? You may want to have a different address. Receiver address to receive the bonus L1X coin. This is native L1X coins, right? So if you have another L1X wallet address, you can put that in. And the BPT amount, what are you actually going to receive? This event is captured, and this information which I share over here is done through the listener node, right? Same listener node. Now, this is where the magic happens. This listener node will go in and get this particular event. It sends this calculation, because now we need to calculate how much bonus the user is going to get based on the amount the user has deposited. It goes into a calculation contract, right? It registers that information and goes into a calculation contract. This registry contract is now the link between different chains, right? And we'll see how that becomes a link, right? We join the pool with equal proportion, right? And the user now will start receiving the L1X coins, because this registry contract understands after a certain point in time, the user has to keep getting the bonus. Now, how do we take liquidity that is in this pool here, right? Which is already, like, this USDC 50% is there on Ethereum chain as well. So we know that this is similar. How do we take that and swap it with Binance? Let's say there are 4 pools. Now I want to swap USDC from Ethereum with ETH L1X and BSC from the BSC chain with USDC on Ethereum chain, but the BSC is pegged with L1X. Now, how do you do that, right? So in the swap, what's going to happen is, I have the, sorry, think this is a much more simpler one. All right. The user will go and initiate the client swap. Okay, I want to swap. I want to give you Ethereum, give me Binance coin. No problem, right? But what we do is we do a smart order router management where it goes into L1X EVM and fetches the price. Now, this price calculation has to be through XTalk, because this is where XTalk allows you to understand if you give me Ethereum and you are asking me to give you Binance, what is the amount that you got to give me to receive the Binance coins? This logic fits into the XTalk infrastructure, right? So the XTalk takes that. Now, once the price is determined, the user initiates the swap. When the user initiates the swap, the XTalk infrastructure knows what to go and update on the balancer registry and what to go and update on the destination contract. Meaning, if the balancer registry has to be reduced by 10 USDC on the Binance pool, then it also has to reduce 10 USDC from the Binance Smart Chain. This logic that two registries have to be updated at the same time, one after the other before another transaction comes through, this is what XTalk helps us in positioning with the scheduler and with the ability of no front running over here. So the XTalk helped us to maintain the registry between different contracts, number one. The XTalk helped us to get the price through the smart order router before it is being sent. And XTalk helps us to get a global TX ID, which is understandable across Ethereum chain, L1X chain, and the Binance chain to keep a track on the same transaction before someone front runs it.
So, am I on mute? No, I'm not. So, what we're doing with the balancer pool and I think this is a really powerful point to kind of press home, is that let's say USDT ETH, and for those people who don't know, you've got USDT that is on Ethereum, which is Ethereum compatible USDT, and you've also got USDT which is on Binance Smart Chain, right, which is BNB chain compatible USDT. So those are two different tokens with the same value, right? Two different tokens under kind of like the same kind of USDT stablecoin umbrella. So what XTalk allows, it allows one side of a pair. Let's say normally you have a liquidity pair, you've got two tokens. One side of that pair to sit on one chain, and the other side of the pair to sit on L1X, to create a cross-chain liquidity pair. Now that's extremely powerful when you think of what you can do with that, and the balancer pool is probably the perfect example, where you can now start to pull these coins or tokens from other chains into one pair or one mix of tokens, which is a balancer pool of two or three or more tokens, to start to create these either deep liquidity pools, so you don't have to fragment liquidity across multiple chains, or quite innovative liquidity pools where you can take native ETH, native BNB, native Solana, and represent that within a balancer pool. And so let's look from the project perspective. If I'm a project and my project token is paired with the native coin, so it might be paired with ETH or it might be paired with BNB. What XTalk and the balancer pool allows is for me to take my project token and actually pair that with native Solana, native BNB, native ETH, like a mix of all these kind of native blue chip tokens, and also L1X, right? To be able to pair it with these to create probably a much more stable side of the pair that my project token is paired to. And there's so many different things you could do with this, with the ability to do this. I just noticed a couple of questions as well. Is that someone's asked, let's say if it is native transfer of tokens, wouldn't that eliminate the need for liquidity? This is from DD. I think it's a really good question because it's actually a question I asked Kevin many months ago as well, and he explained it in a really good way. is that while we have a virtual machine which translates, the source and destination chains, they can only take tokens that are compatible to their chains. So let's say I want to take BNB from Binance, native BNB from Binance Smart Chain, and I want to transfer that BNB over to Solana. You can't do that because on the other end, the BNB will not be compatible. You can translate a version, right? Almost like a wrap version or something like that, Kevin. But to transfer a token natively over to a different chain, the destination chain itself has to allow that token to be compatible on its chain. Is that right?
Yeah, you're right. And I think the liquidity, exists on both the chains, and we shouldn't move liquidity from these chains. Like native liquidity should always be on that chain, right? But I think one thing to add over here is two important reasons why XTalk is required. Your bridge is okay if you kind of want to do remittance, right? If you're doing a remittance service, okay, you can use a bridge, but you don't only use remittance to to buy things. You go and look at a product and you pay to the merchant with your card details. Now you have a product and you have a payment. Now how does these two come together? Because the merchant isn't giving you AUD for your USD, he's giving you a product. So when you have a product, that is a contract. Now how do you let these two things come together? Because there is a logic behind it as well, right? I got to reduce my inventory, I got to do X, I got to do Y, I got to pay GST. This is where XTalk helps in building that infrastructure as well.
Yeah, no, very good. So let's maybe have a look at, we will get into some live testing soon, but I think this is really important to go through and understand. So where does, how does this technology provide security? How does this infrastructure enable, a high level of security when I want to go cross-chain, whether it's, through the swaps or NFTs or logic? How does that, where's the security levels in here?
Yeah, I think when you talk about security, right, it's important to break down the components, which is verification, execution, or communication and execution, right? The problem is not with the execution, because the Ethereum chain is going to execute as it is, right? I mean, you give it something, it will execute, right? The security usually comes in through verification and communication, right? When you're talking about cross-chain. But because we have an element of execution here as well, right? We have another layer that requires to be protected. So let's look at it from the verification part first, right? Verification and execution part. What happens over here is when you get some data that you have, received from some endpoint, from Ethereum or even your Web2 technology, that data is received by a peer, right? In a pool, which is a peer has a mempool, he receives that data. Now, that information cannot be communicated without a signing process. So what will happen is it creates a way where these listeners, right, select a leader, but it's not only the leader's signature that is required. It is a minimum of these listener nodes coming together to sign to allow this person to even be a leader. Because there is no staking in a way on listener nodes. There is a staking in full validator nodes, right? So that is also a point of difference between the Chainlink node and us. So algorithmically or technologically, we have created a way where the signature system works. But what will happen is the global transaction ID is generated on the source chain. The listeners pick that up, insert that global transaction ID, sign it, and send it to the full validator node. But the full validator node also knows the global transaction ID and also notes the signing signature that these guys have done. So the full validator node will only execute if this signature is received. and it knows what signature to receive, from whom it has to receive that. So if somebody else tries to send it that particular information, it will not even execute it. It will fail. But once the swap is fulfilled over here, this information has to be sent back, right? So that we can maintain a way that even the user knows that the swap has completed, right? Because in a bridge, what happens is there is a one-way communication. This information doesn't come back because it's twice the cost, right? You're doing the same thing again. But in our case, it is the same cost because it is a part of that process where the destination chain receives that information and the VM updates its state. So if anyone has been subscribing to L1X VM, understands that this has been completed on the destination chain without connecting to the destination chain or sending this receipt back to the source chain and then confirming again. So from the security standpoint, the information verification is done by multiple peer listener nodes. The global transaction ID allows us to have a form of unification across listener, execution, and signer. And at the same time, the modularity between the listener, execution, and the signer allows us for keeping the information separate. And the signer node uses a threshold signing signature, which without them coming together to sign, even the destination chain won't receive it, or the contract on the destination chain will not accept it.
Okay, so there's multiple different levels to really of security in there. There's a this is a side question, but I've just seen it mentioned a couple of times, so I thought I'd ask now. With our ability to connect to any chain, so couple of questions, and I'll probably just merge these two questions that I've seen here into one. What is the process of connecting a chain? Are there easier chains to connect than other chains? And is there any chains, and maybe now or in the future, that we cannot connect to? Let's say that technology advances and they start to use different infrastructures within these chains. Is there anything that we can't connect to? So that's probably a three-part question. What's the process of connecting a chain? Are there easier chains to connect than other chains? And is there any chains now or potentially in the future that we couldn't connect to?
Yeah. So when we talk about connecting a chain, right, there are two important components to understand. The first one is the event that the chain emits. Do we understand that or not, right? Does our virtual machine understand that event? Because it has to process that event. And the other one is the transaction manager of that specific chain has to understand the translated event that our virtual machine creates as a payload, right? Now, there is one good thing in open source that we have got, something like a JSON struct where the JavaScript object notation, which is the ABI code, allows us to understand the events. So these kind of events are similar across all the chains, right? That's one good thing. The only point of difference is over here is the transaction payload that has to be created. So let's take, Bitcoin, for example, right? Bitcoin does not have a smart contract layer. Now, these are situations where if it's a smart contract layer chain, we can connect to them because our adapter can adopt the transaction manager's schema. And that's not a big job, right? We can do that provided there is liquidity there. But let's say chains that do not have a smart contract layer, like Bitcoin, right? In this, the signing scheme has to come into place. So we have to create this virtual contract between L1X and Bitcoin, saying that a Bitcoin account holds the value. Now, if this account has transferred Bitcoin into another account, let's say as a loan, right? The person wants to receive a loan. He has put Bitcoin as collateral. Then this contract, XTalk contract, has to keep a registry, but at the same time has to keep this signing scheme similar, which is only if two of them sign, then this one signature should be created that moves Bitcoin from one account to the other. These are additional components that come through in connecting a chain. So the signature process is the additional component. The understanding of the event, the creating of the payload through the adapter for the transaction manager is not a technically challenging job, but the signature scheme that has to be integrated with the adapter, that is important. So that is where complexity comes through, but that's what we're here for.
And does it matter if the chain is like a DAG structure, or just someone here is, I mean, I don't know if you know these specific chains, but someone said, TIA is the first modular chain, Casper is a block DAG. Can we connect to those chains? Is there any difficulties?
Yeah, so this is the beauty about it, right? So in this diagram, if you see, the transaction manager is what we need to understand, and the event. We don't have to understand how the states and the VM runtime work.
Because we hold the VM and the states. That's why, because we're in them.
No, these are different chains. So for different chains, the transaction manager and the event is only the one that we need to understand. Their internal mempool structure or how they are actually updating the state, that is not, concerning to us.
Yes, that's native to them, correct. Okay, yeah, right. We just want to know what event has been created, and then how do we transmit that event to the destination. Okay, that's really interesting. And then in terms of we're talking about the kind of the mechanism, the consensus mechanism, and obviously the mobile validator got come into play, part of that transaction validation process, where the first initiator node or will basically send the transaction information to randomly selected pools of mobile validators. Where is that on the roadmap in terms of bringing the kind of mobile validators into play?
Yeah, we are testing that system, but you have to understand that we can't release everything at once, right? Because the problem is, this is a completely new technology that's uplifting the swaps at this stage, right? And there will be bugs which we are trying to solve. And in terms of the roadmap, probably I would say 45 days after we release the TGE or the mainnet, we will introduce the first set of mobile validator clusters. Yeah, so that sense. Will,
Yeah, and I think it's probably important for people to know it's a development process, right? And it's an evolution of the chain where all these components start to come together, and each component, as you say, and quite rightly, needs to be tested. It needs to be gone through a process and then implemented onto the chain. But the good news is that the infrastructure, it's looking like the infrastructure allows all this to happen anyway. And so it's just basically a case of testing and then rolling out and implementation. That's great. Maybe speaking back to the swaps and speaking maybe more so to the speed and of the swaps, what components allow for the speed of the swaps, and can it even get faster?
Yeah.
Like what dictates the speed, and what infrastructure allows for speedy cross-chain swaps?
Yeah. No, this is a good question, and let me explain this with an analogy. And this thing hit me when I was I actually was in that analogy. So I was at this, it's like a food court, right? Let's take an example of a food court. Now, I ordered for a meal, and as usual, like I ordered different items. Like I wanted to have, North Indian food, South Indian, and multiple ones. Now, I had to pick a plate from the central place, and I had to go to multiple ones, one after the other, right? So they would give me a ticket. I would take that ticket, go to the other one. They would give me a ticket. I would take and go to the other one. Right? Just create a list and just tick mark, right? But no, what if you tick mark it, right? So they were giving me these tickets one after the other. Now, each and every one of them had a different line. So even if there were 3 people less in the other one, I was still waiting here, where I could have gone and collected over there, right? So this is what happens with bridges, because you're using a different system for Oracle, which has a different mempool. You're using a different system for Relayer, which has a different mempool. You're using a different blockchain, which has a different mempool and different timing. Now, they all have to sync up with each other, not to even understand that the back order kitchen has to also sync with each other. How many orders are coming through, right? This increases the number of smart contracts and pooling management required for a simple swap to happen. Now, it has got better over time, right? It has got better, but in today's world, the swaps are really not tested because it is tested as a remittance service. It's not tested as 2-3 types of smart contracts coming together, right? So if I have an NFT on, or let's say a product sitting on another chain, I have another coin, I do this remittance and another coin gets released. This is taking it one layer, above, and our system is built to accommodate that, right? So the reason is, if we have a food court and basically one after the other, right? It's all in the same place. You are going to that place, you're picking up the food, you're going to the next spot, you're picking up the food, and everything is synced one after the other. This helps you to reduce the time that you would be standing in line where you didn't have to stand, right? So these kind of situations are when XTalk comes in and simplifies that process of events coming in and signing happening at the same time for us. So it's faster in that way.
So basically, it's, I mean, other than the fact that you sounded extremely hungry and it sounded like you got 6 different meals in the same setting. But is it almost like I could walk into that food court, and you know how some of these fast food outlets have a screen where you can order your meal without having to go up to the counter. So let's say I walk into the food court, they've got a screen. I can enter all the different meals and all the different kind of from all the different stalls, enter what I want, push enter, and now it's all cooking at the same time without having to wait for each other. It's all kind of like all processing in the same at the same time.
Exactly.
And then how does the infrastructure benefit the cost savings? How do the cost savings come in through the infrastructure then? You know, because even when, and we're about to do some swap tests, but I've noticed, you know, the cost structure now, with having optimized those, I mean, is at least half the cost of a lot of, you know, the cost that Stargate and Squid had.
Because you don't have to maintain separate kitchens. You know, you can use resources, like one guy making chapatis versus one guy making dal, right? Like there are 3 guys making dal at the same time, and you don't need 3 people. So because it's a shared security, shared kitchen, this helps us where the listener nodes, full validator nodes, they understand each other's timing, and they don't need that many people to it, right? So it reduces the number of smart contracts that are required to interact with each other and update each other. So that is how, because there is a sync process, there are less smart contracts required, because if you think about it, the virtual machine executes the contract according to one opcode, one after the other, right? Now, the less number of lines, the faster it's going to execute, right? So in our case, there are lesser number of lines, like heaps, right? And we are improvising that one after the, you know, every week. So that's what makes it faster as well.
And I think it's a really good add-on to add there as well, is that someone said, let's say I want to swap to Bitcoin, right? Will Bitcoin Flow TPS affect L1X speed swap? And I think that's right? So we can control the speed of our processing, but we still have to take into account how slow or quick the source and destination will execute, right?
Again, you can use the XTalk logic here to play around with this. For example, if you ever done, you know, transfer between 2 different countries, if your amount is bigger, it takes a longer time, right? If your amount is smaller, they do it faster. So if you're transferring less, the XTalk logic can understand that, okay, once the transaction hash is created, consider this transaction final. Versus if the amount is bigger, then wait for block finality, right? So these kind of modifications and configurations can be done to adjust the speed of the transactions.
Mm-hmm. And maybe let's stay in that kind of theme. We kind of maybe touched on, you know, and start to play around with the tech, and maybe from the developer's perspective. So let's say one of the benefits for developers for using XTalk over, let's say, bridge contracts? What are the benefits there for builders and developers?
This is an important question, because that's where even the developers are going to adopt it, right? And there was one thing that I got wrong, probably in August last year. And what I got wrong was developers won't mind coming and building, right? And there was like heaps of discussion that we did internally and even spoke to outside developers. And this was the feedback phase, right? So what we have done is we are going to focus on exact repositories, meaning if a developer wants to build a swap widget, right? A swap. If a developer wants to build a multi-chain balancer pool, if a developer wants to build gaming contract, right? If a developer wants to build fungible, non-fungible token contract, we are going to give them copy-paste repositories with the front end. So what will happen here is the complete project will be given to them with the front end screen, where they can go and modify certain things that they require, add certain rules if they wanted to, right? And deploy it straight away. So you don't have to come and build. You just copy paste, change certain things. It's like pasting a WordPress template and just changing the headings and details, right? Rather than building the template yourself. And what we have done there is, if you go to, let's say, Gitbook, we have given this whole contract to them. So how you can just copy paste it, right? Errors that you can get, and you can build it, like do a cross-chain straight away. So it shows examples as well.
Excellent. So it makes it really simple.
And copy paste. That's it.
Copy paste. Wow.
Yeah.
And let's say I did want to get, let's say as a developer, I did want to get down and maybe alter a few things and make it a little bit more bespoke or tailor-made to what I want to do. I still have the access to be able to do that as well, right? Alter it and
yeah, you'll have the L1X contracts that are available as well. In these contracts, the swap contract has already been audited by Hashlock. Like, they found one issue there, which was something that we had already solved, because they came back after 3 weeks. We already solved that. So this contract is already audited.
Yeah, cool. They're good. They're good crew, the Hashlock guys. And I think this is really important, because I've got Zella. Zella has asked the question here: can anyone copy our tech, or are we protected in some way? And I think this is probably a really good question, because this is where we've really got to find that balance of opening up the ecosystem, but still protecting the unique proprietary technology, right? And this is the journey I suppose we've been on for some time. But yeah, maybe if you could speak to a little bit about that, the protection of the tech. Can anyone copy it?
Yeah, and good. This question has come up because this is one of the this is a catch-22. I want to open source the code, but at the same time, we want to push for adoption. And as much as we fight adoption, right? We had to go and build certain use cases so that developers can see, copy, paste, and adopt it, right? So if somebody wants to copy our technology, well, they'll have to copy everything, right? Because it's so, it's modular and integrated in such a way that if you change one thing, right, you got to understand what is the other thing you want to change for this to work in the same way, right? So I don't think, if somebody copies it, that means they can fork it, right? They can fork it or copy paste and create their own layer one, like L1X. But this is where adoption has to come in, so that even if you create copy paste Ethereum EVM today, or even let's say Sui blockchain, you copy paste, but Sui is always going to be Sui, right? So it's like Facebook, right? You copy paste, but Facebook can't be copy pasted because of the adoption it has. And that's what we are after. The open source you can't put restrictions on people taking the code and pasting it. Although we may have, certain rights where you can't non-compete kind of rights, but you can't stop people from that. So adoption is the only way we can stop.
And I think that's another reason why the proof of X phase is so important, is to bring on that adoption, and as you say, show the use cases so developers can come on and copy paste and see those use cases and smart contracts interacting. We've got Hashlock auditing the smart contracts and also auditing the virtual machine. We'll have, even after TG, they've got that period there with the new tokenomics that will allow more adoption on there as well. So when we get to a place where we've got the adoption, then we can potentially look at, sharing some of the stuff. But until then, it's so unique, and I think even just from the presentation today, it's so powerful in what it does that no one else can do. We've got to protect it. We have to protect it, not just not just for the protocol sake, but for the community and everyone involved, for the projects and everybody.
Yeah, and that's a hard decision for me because as the founder, the biggest challenge is I want to show validity, and Hashlock right now is auditing, so we can show validity from there. But at the same time, I want to protect the community members because it's like a parent situation, right? Where you can't do it because you don't know the repercussions to it and what it could take down, right? So this is why we are treating carefully, because I have not built a layer 1 before this, so I don't know how this works. So we are and sitting in Perth, we have come until here together as a community. So we have to protect that pace, and that's why sometimes the pace may look it's slower, but it has taken like 4 years for a layer 1 to even reach to the people. We have started in 2021, right? So we are already out there and pushing it with the available resources we have. So we will push for adoption with this copy paste method, and we will open source the code, and hopefully Hashlock comes back with the audit sometime soon for the VM, which we can release it to the people.
Yeah, that's great. A couple of side questions here we've got going on in the audience, Bill, and then maybe we'll get into some swaps, right? I think so we can show the comparisons. But one is so Bitcoin ordinals, which are these Audi NFTs that are coming out of Bitcoin network. Will they be like with the X wallet? Once we've got the X wallet released and you can see all the assets in it and all those things, will you be able to see assets from Bitcoin within the wallet within the same view as assets from Ethereum, assets from Solana?
Although Ethereum uses a similar signature scheme as Bitcoin in a way, we will have to make the X wallet compatible with the Bitcoin network. And that requires a lot of work in the X wallet. And also, it's just man hours, basically, right? Yeah. It's just resources and man hours. You will be able to do that, but what's our priority right now, right? Yeah. We are working towards, how you could use MetaMask to also get, the L1X coin in there. We are working towards that, even Bitcoin in X wallet. But again, we got to prioritize what are we after here, and then hit them with one by one.
Yep. Yeah, that's great. So let's get down to the nitty gritty. I think. Joe,
I think there is one question on the public sale. Public sale closing. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, I think we will close it down this week. I apologize, it has been delayed because, yeah, sure, as an investor, you understand that it's very easy to close it down, right? But we have to modify the swaps as well. We have to modify the foundation website as well. And we already had a backlog of work. So I had to pick between both of them, right? It doesn't take a lot of time, but it requires resources, right? So we were working on, the balancer. We were working on the gaming contract for, Diga Arcade so that we can release them. So we will close it down this week.
Yeah, great. And then with the, maybe before we get into the swaps, in terms of the swaps itself, obviously what we're going to see is where the swaps are at right now, and we're going to do some testing there. But in terms of the roadmap ahead for the swaps, what's some of the, from where we are now to, end of year, for example, let's say, what sort of things what kind of exciting features or additions can we expect with the swaps?
Yeah, I think Tron has an amazing community as well, and a lot of dexes are not doing Tron. So I think integrating Tron would be great. They have a different VM for TRX, right? So that's how we can integrate with them as well. Adding Solana, we have already done Solana. So adding Solana, adding Bitcoin, right? But at the same time, these three, are some great options to have in there. So exclusively from the swap, these three tokens will be added. And if there are more tokens that should be added, like Pulse coin is there, or maybe, and Shiba is there, or any one of these are there, we can definitely look at that as well. Like it depends on the requirement from the community.
Yeah, I know we've got a few community members that are in those other chains going, we'll connect them up. But it makes sense. I mean, the TVL on Tron is massive. And also, with Solana, it's a no-brainer. Bitcoin, obviously, it's a no-brainer as well. Okay, well, let's get into, what do you reckon, Joe? We'll get into some swaps?
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's the perfect place to be, right? See some live swaps. He operates with the boss in control.
Yeah. Did I see your little assistant before? Is that the upcoming community manager that?
Yeah, sneaking in to make sure everybody's doing their work. That's what she's doing.
Yeah, she's the boss. She's
always the boss. That one is definitely the boss. Make no mistake.
Yeah.
Okay.
Nice, mate. Little cutie. Okay, let's have a look at some swaps. So we've got a list here of, so we've got, I'm just looking at the list that we've got from people, Binance to AVAX to ETH, and maybe a Polygon to Binance.
Yeah, that's right. So, of course, you're on the swap widget, right?
Yeah.
Let's go. So the fees over here, I'm praying for approval is 6 cents, right? Let's approve it. And the gas fee per submission is 42. So it's like 48 cents in total. Now let's go and do Stargate, maybe, right? Same one, yeah. Binance to Avalanche.
Yeah, Binance to Avalanche on Stargate. Let's have a look. Are you able to maximize your stream a bit more from there, Kevin? Or?
Yeah. Is it big enough? Yeah. Binance to Avalanche, USDC. They don't have USDC over. No, BUSD is there. Okay, let's do USDT, Binance to Avalanche. USDT. Okay. Connect wallet. What happened? Is there a?
You're still connecting.
What happened? Okay. Anyways, I think I can go to Squid Router.
So Stargate, just so everyone knows, Stargate Finance is built on the Layer 0 technology, and Squid Router is built on the XLR technology. So basically what we're doing is we're comparing Layer 1X XTalk technology to Layer 0 and to XLR.
Okay, it's $3.20.
Right.
So ours was 48 cents versus
6 times more.
Yeah.
To be able to do on Squid.
320 now. Yeah. Okay.
Right. And we're still waiting for a wallet to connect on on Stargate.
Okay, our swap has already been completed here. I already finished my swap 2 minutes ago.
Right.
Yeah. So Squid is processing. Let's see what happened to Stargate. Let me refresh my screen, maybe. Oh yeah, there you go. Okay. BNB, USDT, and Avalanche, USDT. Okay. $0.05 for the approval. $1.30. One.
Okay.
So see this one, the gas is 55 cents, right? And the total, see this amount over here. This is what they're actually taking out, meaning they're paying around 50 cents and asking for 130. So that means the gap 80 cents is what they are getting.
Right.
That's the amount. Yeah. Let me confirm. Out of that, they must be using some to pay for Avalanche gas fees, but still they are remaining with something. Okay. This is 1 minute 30 seconds. Avalanche, let me refresh. Yeah, Stargate has, Squid Router also completed. So Viper contract, Squid Router. Stargate is still going on. Let's come back to that later. Let's do another swap.
The next one was
AVAX to ETH.
Yeah, to ETH.
USDC and let's do USDT. AVAX USDC. Okay. So price 9.98. Swap. $0.06. $6.77, which is Ethereum gas price.
Yep.
So that gap that we are charging here, this amount which we are charging is for Ethereum gas price on the destination chain.
Right. Yep.
Yeah.
$6.77 or 70 cents.
Yeah. Swap is completed. Let's try. This fella is also done. Okay, let's go to Avalanche. Check. So we should have a total of 3. Yeah, there you go. Even Stargate completed. Good. So 9.98 in Squid Router, Stargate and L1X 9.99, but the fees were different. Okay, let me just refresh this. Okay. Let's go to Stargate and do the next one, AVAX to Ethereum. Yeah. Perfect. $0.06 for approval. $21.
Okay.
So we had $6. Yeah, 3 times more, 3.5 times.
And then what was that? What that was Squid as well.
Yeah, we'll do it with Squid as well. So this is still confirming. Okay, so our transaction is completed for L1X. Target is still going through. Let's do it with Squid. AVAX. USDC to ETH, right? Yeah, okay. USDT. Whoa. $57. $57.
Bargain.
They make it too obvious.
I want to swap $10 and pay $57.
I'm even thinking, should I even do it? Like, I mean, it's my fund.
No, don't even waste your money.
Nah.
I mean, so basically, you could pay for almost 10 transactions on L1X for the cost of one on Squid. In this example, from AVAX to ETH.
Why are they charging so much? Okay, anyways. Reject. I'm not paying that kind of money, man. It's like my lunch. Okay. All right. So Ethereum, let's refresh. Okay. So Stargate is also done and L1X is also done. But to know that L1X actually the end amount is higher, 9.988. Oh no, sorry. This Squid router, sorry, Stargate is higher, 9.99 versus 9.98 with us over here.
Mm-hmm.
But we mentioned this number, right? Now,
yeah.
What's happening over here is you paid $21 in gas fee versus $6. That's a huge difference over there.
Massive, yeah. And also, which just remind everyone, you're using a bridge system with Stargate.
It's a new technology with us, and still, I mean, it's still in its infancy if you think about it. Like bridges are like mature.
Yes, yeah, and still having issues. Yeah.
What was the other one?
Polygon to Binance.
Let's stay away from ETH, otherwise Kevin won't be able to have lunch for the whole week.
Yeah. I'm right.
They're very cool.
Polygon to Binance. So this is where you see this liquidity cap. This is where we need more liquidity so people can do the swaps.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay, switch network. Polygon to Binance. Okay. It's hardly anything, nothing for approval. Polygon is, it's got less gas price because it's like an L2.
Yeah. Polygon's less gas. Yeah.
15 cents. Right.
Take that. Yeah, for sure.
Polygon to Binance. Let's done. Finish. Okay. Let's do on Stargate. Okay. Polygon to USDC. What is that? Oh, this is the new token. Okay. To Binance. USDT. Okay. Approval is 0. Same.
Yeah.
I have a feeling that this guy should be a little cheaper here, but majority of the swaps are out of Binance for some reason. 75 cents. So ours was 15 cents versus 75 cents.
So 5 times less.
Yeah. So L1X is 5 times less. Yes.
Yeah. L1X is 5 times less.
See the fees over here. So 0.01 is the gas, and they're charging 0.75. So this amount is 0.74. So if we could do the transaction in 0.14, that means they are charging 50 cents on this transaction, 5% on $10. Let's confirm. Anyways, what was that to Binance? Let me refresh. Our swap is completed here.
And then maybe just finally with the Squid, yeah.
Oh, so showing 21 minutes, man.
Oh, it's still going. Okay.
It should be faster. this is the problem. Like you got to reattempt with the RPCs as well. Though too many contracts where it's gone wrong, you got to keep a track on that.
And just for everyone to know is that the longer the transaction takes, the larger the vector for exploitation, right? So the longer it takes, while it's in that processing mode, it's vulnerable.
Yeah. I think you copied that line from me, right?
I think so, man. Yeah,
I remember saying that a year ago.
Yeah.
You've been watching my videos. That's good.
Yeah.
Okay, then so approval 0 as well in Squid. What happened? Oh, okay. Whoa, 1.77.
$1.77. Right. Wow. So that's 12 times more than what we're charging. Okay. I think this is
fine. Polygon to Binance, right? So this is our transaction that completed. Now let's see the other one if it did. No, only one yet. Only ours. So Stargate is still going, and Squid is still processing here.
And I suppose it's interesting that we've already talked about why this happens in terms of the workload that the virtual machine does, the how our system or the L1X system multitasks almost with multiple different tasks operating at the same time to allow for not only the speed to take place but also the cost savings with these major players as well versus these major players.
Any other? Yeah, I mean,
yeah,
I think it's three swaps.
Yeah. So we've optimized these routes so far. I know we're also the team's looking at ETH BNB will be the next one we kind of optimize it from ETH outwards, right? So we're looking at. Well, I know the team's working on that as well to go from ETH.
I forgot to show one thing. Sorry. So we have added a tracker. So if you see the tracker over here. So you can keep a track. Like the reason was like certain times the swaps, right? It's more like it's not us. It's just the RPC endpoint has failed or the source chain is taking time, right? But once it comes to XTalk, it's very quick. Like it processes it very, very fast. So this tracker will help you understand where the swap is. But please remember that we have just released this yesterday and we are optimizing it further. And we will also add the contract itself over here. So you will be able to click on it and see the whole contract for swap, right? With the hash lock audit.
Great. And I think this is great because I think the community wanted to see, the transaction. They wanted to be able to see, the swap transactions here. That we've got the L1X, the UUID, where basically forms like a universal transaction ID, where it's got the source, the destination, and what's been verified on L1X. You've got the process there as well, which is good. So I think this is a nice addition. But as you said, just released it. We're testing it, so bear with us. But I think this is nice.
Yeah.
And,
all right.
And so look, I appreciate it, and I think that those tests just show. I mean, I suppose the one that they all stand out, right? Some of them are we're 3 times less, sometimes we're 6 times less, sometimes we're 15 times less. And I think the maximum cost saving there was $50, right, on one swap when we were going from AVAX to ETH and Squid was going from AVAX to ETH or Stargate, whoever it was. They're both more expensive. And I think you mentioned something really important, maybe which we can touch on now, is that at the moment the swaps we've kept the liquidity because obviously the liquidity is needed for the swaps to take place. Now, what we're doing to increase in how people can support the swaps is it is really a great example of the tech that lies underneath it. Because at the moment we're swapping tokens, it'll get to a point where you can swap NFTs, you can do, smart contract logic, you can, like, all these things will be, but the swaps is the first real showpiece of the interoperability that underpins it. So the liquidity is really important. The liquidity, and what will the liquidity, extra liquidity do, Kevin? What does that allow?
Yeah, the reason why we weren't only focusing on swaps and we did the identity and the space cards as well is to demonstrate the power of XTalk for user validation as well. And we have the version 2 working, right, for the space cards, and that will display the validation, but that is in our hands. We can do that, right? Now, the liquidity, on the other hand, allows us to compete with these guys in a way that the minimum swaps that happen is always like 4,000, 5,000, 3,000, 2,000, 5,000, right? Now, based on whatever we have in there, like the multi-chain staking contract was there, people added liquidity, and thank you for those people. Those liquidity is being used here, right? And they'll be rewarded with that over there. So more liquidity allows us to demonstrate this technology, because then people can swap $4,000, $5,000, $10,000, and people will swap more because your same liquidity will be also available to applications that build with XTalk. Because let's say you have the NFT, right? And then you need to use this interop or the XTalk for the user is paying USDC ETH. You want to receive BSC, for example, right? So you want to sell your NFT. Your liquidity will also be used there. So it's not only for this specific thing. So the liquidity will definitely help us demonstrate the technology in a practical standpoint where we will receive adoption for it. That is what we are after, that adoption phase.
Yeah, really important. And then obviously to bring on that adoption, we want to open up the ability to, if someone does want to, send 10,000 cross-chain, let's allow them to do that. It just opens the window to small transactions, large transactions, whale transactions, all this as the liquidity builds. That's great. So let's talk a little bit about the liquidity bootstrap coming up, which is actually going to be launching on the 21st, which is Wednesday next week. So what I might do is, if I can, and I've got some questions from the community as well that we collected, which is thank you to Joe and the mods and the X team for collecting those. So what I'll do is I'll go through the program itself and then also answer some of the questions that have been raised as well. So I might just answer some of the questions, then go through the details. So some of the questions are that with the L1X, right? How does the L1X kind of work into the liquidity bootstrap, the balancer pool, the multi-chain balancer pool? So the balancer pool itself and the phase 1 of the balancer pool is this liquidity bootstrap, because the liquidity bootstrap will provide liquidity in USDT, USDC, and then it'll start to, from there, and then we can showcase the swaps at larger levels going cross-chain. And why USDT, USDC? Because they're the most bridged tokens out of any tokens in the whole blockchain ecosystem. So we're going to start with those tokens. Why ETH? Why Binance? Because they're the chains that have the most in and out bridging to them. So that covers a large portion of the market. Now, that's the phase 1. Phase 2 is where you can start to create your own pools with multiple different tokens from multiple different chains as it evolves. So the balancer pool phase 1 is a great example. And all these capabilities, our aim is to hand these capabilities over to the L1X when they've completed their testing. They're currently going through a testing phase now to be able to test on the system and do that. So rather than having to wait for that testing to be complete, we want to be, as Kevin said, we want to showcase this. And our aim is, once we've showcased, we don't want to own applications. We want to be able to hand these over to whether it's a gaming application for DeGA or whether it's a balancer pool for the DEX. Other things as well is that will there be bootstrapping for multi-chain gas token pool? Eventually, the balancer pool will be able to take any tokens really, as long as there's liquidity pool on the native chain, which Kevin talked about before. then we're really going to be able to accept any tokens from any of the chains that we're connected to. And so first stage, USDT, USDC. And as we build, you can really create any type of pools, whether it's a gas token pool for the multi-chain gas token or whatever that be. So the answer to that is yes, it will come. The ability to do that will come. First stage is the liquidity bootstrap, because it's really important to be able to show the use case within this, these really popular tokens on these really popular chains, because we know that people are doing that already. So let's get them on board to do it with us or do it with L1X. How does impermanent loss affect the LP pool? So some of these are really kind of related specifically to the details of the liquidity bootstrap. So let me dive in and let me open up the liquidity bootstrap page on our wiki, and let me kind of run through these. Let me see if I can share my screen. Am I sharing my screen? What can you see? Can you see the liquidity bootstrap? Oh no, I can't see anything yet. 1 second. Here we go.
Just haven't seen nothing yet.
Can you see now?
Yes, sir.
Okay, awesome. So let me run you through the details and explain some of these here. So with the liquidity bootstrap, the point of the liquidity bootstrap is twofold: to showcase the ability of the multi-chain balancer pool to developers and to users, and two, to create liquidity in the form of USDT L1X, USDC L1X, to support the cross-chain swaps between Binance, Ethereum with those particular tokens, because they're the most used chains and the most used tokens when it comes to bridging. So that's the purpose behind that. Now, yes, we've already got the single staking there, but why run a liquidity bootstrap? It's because we want to build up more liquidity than the single staking has attracted, right? And with this liquidity bootstrap program, I think you can see that the incentive or the rewards that you can get by opting in to the liquidity bootstrap are really quite lucrative. And we'll go through those as well when I'm talking through this. But the pool will open up on the 21st of February, which is Wednesday, and it will only be open for 14 days. Now, the opening of the pool will be announced in Discord first. So just to give community members first access. Why? Is because each pool has a limit of 500K TVL. 500K USDT Binance, 500K USDC Binance, 500K USDT ETH, 500K USDC ETH. That is the cap. Deposits. So basically, we've already talked about why we're doing it, why it helps the protocol and the liquidity and the swaps. Minimum deposit $50. You can go in with. Maximum obviously is going to be 500K because that's the cap of the TVL. You cannot go beyond that. So whatever's remaining, if you've got a large amount you want to put in there, but there's only a small amount left in the TVL, then you might want to put some into that and then go into one of the other 3 pools, because there's 4 pools available. As I mentioned, USDT, USDC, either Binance or ETH. From when you deposit in there, you will get LP tokens. The LP tokens are tradable. Is that correct, Kevin? That the LP tokens that will almost like the receipt tokens for the liquidity of USDC L1X, for example, those tokens themselves will be tradable?
Yes, the LP tokens are tradable even with your MetaMask.
Excellent. And then obviously you unlock rewards and some pretty generous rewards, and we'll go through those as well. So what's in it for you? You receive the liquidity pair when you deposit in, and that liquidity pair. So let's take an example of, let's say you put in $1,000. $1,000 USDC will go into the pool, and that $1,000 will form $500 of L1X, $500 of USDC to create the liquidity pair. So you have a $1,000 value of that liquidity pair. Now that liquidity pair is valued at L1X at 50 cents public sale. So after TGE, when you've still got the liquidity pair, because someone asked about it in permanent loss or gain, yes, the value of that liquidity pair will fluctuate with the value of L1X coin. So let's say if L1X coin dips, it'll drop, but if L1X coin goes up, it'll also increase the value of that liquidity pair. What else do you, this is after TGE once launched. What else do you get by participating within that? Is a great opportunity to also earn L1X coin rewards as well. So starting on the opening of the pool, there is a 14-day window. That 14-day window is when you can deposit into the pool. There is an advantage for you to deposit earlier than later into the pool, and this is why. So each day there is a daily reward rate percentage, meaning that whatever value you have in the pool on that day, you will get this percentage of L1X coins put into your rewards account, right? So let's say you've got $1,000 on day one, you get in on day one, and look, there is an incentive to get in on day one, it's 12%. If you got $1,000 in there, you get $120 worth of L1X coin at 50 cents. That's 240 L1X coin that will go in to your rewards account. The next day you get 4% of that, which is $40 worth of L1X coin, $20 worth of L1X coin on day 3, $10 worth of L1X coin, if this is based on $1,000 on day 4, so on and so forth, for every day that you are already in or you have deposited in to the pool. Now, if you come in on day 4, there's still plenty of upside for you, but obviously it's beneficial to come in earlier, because if you come in earlier, you get to actually benefit from all the daily reward rates that have happened from day 1. Now, once the pool closes on the 14th, that'll be it. Now, it may not close on the 14th. It may actually close earlier because the TVL in the pool may be hit, and then the pool will close. So it could close on day 10, could close on day 5, could close on day 1, who knows. But the maximum it will open for is 14 days. After that 14-day period, then up to TGE, any value that you have in the pool will still attract 1% a day on that value. So let's say you got $1,000, you're still getting $10 of L1X coins, so 20 L1X coins per day, put it into your rewards account up to TGE. Now, with TGE, we still don't have a definite date on TGE. However, I would say, just so you can relax, just assume second half of March sometime, just so you're not sweating at the beginning of March, right? But what this pool kind of accommodates, whatever date TGE is in March, after the pool closes, you'll be getting 1% up to that day anyway. So if it's on the 15th, you'll be getting 1% from the close of the pool to the 15th. If it's on the 30th, you'll be getting 1% from the close of the pool all the way up to the 30th. So look, you may be hoping for a later TGE on this, but either way, you've got benefits. Now, once you've starting to claim and accrue all these L1X coins in your rewards account, what happens then is you will have from TGE, you will have the opportunity to claim back not only the liquidity pair, so the USDC or USDT L1X pair, but also you'll be able to claim the L1X coin rewards from day 1, right, over a 120-day period. So whatever value you have accumulated in the initial deposit, which is now USDT, USDC, L1X, or whatever value you have accumulated in your rewards account, which is full of L1X coins, that amount divided by 120 days, that's what you'll be able to claim per day. And then, because what will happen then, the liquidity that you provided, so the L1X USDC or L1X USDT, will still be able to provide liquidity as it ekes out over from TGE. So it will still be providing liquidity there, and also the coins will be claimable as well from there. So look, in terms of the 14-day, I think it's, if you're in on day 1, just in the 14-day period, it's about, I think it was worked out like 39% or close to 40% on that you're getting from 30 days, and then 1% after that. So look, if you're getting, say, 40% over 30 days, the annual interest rate on that is probably somewhere in the, what's that, 500% APR over a year. So not financial advice, but just in my own opinion, I think that's pretty generous. That's pretty lucrative. And then once you're able to claim the LP and the tokens and the L1X tokens, they're automatically tradable. Automatically tradable from whatever amount you can claim on whatever day you choose to claim it. The steps will be easy. So you'll connect your wallet to the L1X app. You'll be able to choose your pool. You'll be able to select whether it's USDT, USDC, Binance or ETH. If you want to go into a pool, but you've got, and let's say it's USDT ETH, and but you've only got USDC Binance, well then all I would say is just use L1X swap. It's cheap. Swap it over and then deposit it in if you want to go into another pool. In terms of some of the other, you'll be able to track your rewards as they accrue within the L1X app. You'll also be able to see the different daily interest rates or daily reward rates that you'll get during the pool period, all through the L1X app. That'll all be live. But what I would say the advantage is to get in early. Like we said, we will be announcing the opening of the pool in Discord first, and then we will go out on the rest of the socials. The reason why we want to do that is we want to make sure that the community is getting first access to the pools, and then obviously everyone else that gets the socials will then be aware that now the pool is open. So if they want to know when the pool is opening and the minute it opens, they'll need to be in the Discord to be able to do that, or you'll need to be in the Discord to be able to do that. In terms of it stopped sharing, I'll ask a couple of questions. I think I answered the impermanent loss question prior. I answered the question around how does L1X work into this. Once again, as they're testing, once they finish their testing, our aim is to hand over the pools. Okay, so why aren't the NFT sales from the L1X app used for the liquidity? The NFT sales for the L1X app are, so just so everyone knows, L1X protocol and the L1X app are two different things. They're two different things. Any funds raised for L1X app, that is put aside to be able to develop the app itself, the features on the app, develop and build out the app. And they're both, our aim for both the L1X protocol and the L1X app is to decentralize the ownership of both. Hence the NFT. NFT gives you ownership. It also gives you, it'll give you rewards from the earnings on the L1X app, and it will give you governance rights as well. So there are two separate things. Will these pools, okay, this is another impermanent loss question. Article mentioned pools will close on March the 5th, or when the pool reaches its target volume of 500K TBL cap. It then states a minimum contribution of $50 and maximum of 500K. Wouldn't you run the risk of not enough spread on participants in the liquidity pool if, say, one person's decide to put in 500K? Look, this particular initiative is not about spread. It's about being able to provide the liquidity to the swaps so we can really start to showcase those swaps at higher levels. That's what it's about. And to be able to, and by going into this liquidity initiative, you're supporting that. You're supporting the swaps. You're supporting people coming on and seeing that I can now transfer larger levels on the swap. So this is all wrapped around showcasing the swaps and building liquidity for them. When you claim the LP and the daily distributions, I'm assuming they will go into L1X wallet. Yes, and Kevin, I'll just check with you, but yes, they'll need the L1X wallet for the claimed L1X coins and LP.
Yeah, so your when you will join the pool, your LP tokens will be visible in the X wallet as well. And the L1X coins that you receive on a daily basis will automatically be distributed in your L1X account. But in the balancer widget itself that we are coming up with, you'll have a My Reward section, and you'll be able to track your rewards on a daily basis over there as well.
Okay, great. And so the LP, so when they, like after TGE, when you can start to claim back your LP and claim your L1X coins. Do you have to claim L1X coins and LP through an L1X wallet?
You'll be able to use MetaMask as well for your LP tokens, but for L1X coins, you need your X wallet.
Yep.
Our recommendation is that just do it on the X wallet for your, if you want to claim your LP and your L1X coins, just use that. So it's a much more simpler process because the LP tokens are tradable immediately.
Yes. Yeah. And I think that's a period of time. Yeah, we talked about, so someone's asking here, are the LP we're providing locked for a period of time? Look, the LP that is provided into the liquidity bootstrap will be in its whole, stay in its original value all the way up to TGE. So it'll be, you won't be able to claim until TGE. When TGE happens, you'll then be able to claim daily your amount over 120 days, over the 4-month period. So it's very similar to the public sale period, where you've got a daily amount coming out 1/20th over 120 days. Yep. Okay. I'd like to confirm this is a daily percent APR as it states. So if I put in $50 or 50K on the first day, that I'm earning, if I put in 50K on the first day, then I'm earning 12% on day one, which is 6K in L1X coins, 4% on day two, which is 2K. Yes, that is 100% correct. That is exactly what you will be earning in the form of L1X coins. And you will still have 50K value within the liquidity pool. It will be now in USDC and L1X, which will form the liquidity pair. And this is why I think, and once again, not financial advice, but we try to structure this where it's really quite beneficial for those providing liquidity, because obviously liquidity is important to the swaps. I think that's pretty much most of the questions. I think some of them are kind of double ups, but I think that's most of the questions. So to prepare for this, Wednesday, we will be announcing it in the Discord first. So be in the Discord. We will be announcing it on Wednesday. We haven't got a specific time yet, because if we just say the time now, then everyone's just going to jump in and not have to jump into the community, right? So we will be announcing it in the Discord on Wednesday when it opens. People in the Discord that see that will get first opportunity to jump in. Day one is a 12% rate. So if you're interested in doing this and you want to join, I would recommend be prepared. Have your USDC, have your USDT, whether it's ETH, Binance, and that's all they need to do, right, Kevin? Just have those coins in their MetaMask ready to be able to connect wallet and opt into the pools.
Yeah. So what's going to happen over there is, if you want, I can just show you something over here. So it kind of gives them an understanding as well. Let me just share my screen. Okay. So basically, this is what that will look like. Of course, we are working on certain UI UX over here, but you go in there, you add your liquidity, right? You can view your transactions here as well. And this will connect to your MetaMask. And then when you go in your portfolio, you'll be able to see your portfolio as well. You can switch between accounts from here and also see that. So this will be as a widget available in the DeFi section, right? And same stuff. Made it as simple as possible. Yeah.
Cool. No, that's good. I'm really excited about it. I'm excited that we've been able to showcase the swaps. Thank you so much, Kevin, for taking us through everything, right? All the kind of background infrastructure.
As a spoiler, I just wanted to show something on the L1X app that we've been working on, right? Because I did see some questions in the community that when is the L1X app getting updated? When are we going to start using our usernames, right? And the mistake that I made before was opening up the L1X app at certain times where there were a lot of bugs, right? That's not what I'm going to do again. That's why it is going under stress test, even if we have to wait a little while. But let me show you a sneak peek of the updated L1X app, right? You do need permission. So only the username holders will be able to get in on the version 2. So it has been integrated with the username. So you'll be able to select your username now. So you connect your wallet or your email. So if you don't have a wallet, you can use your email. But the username is the decentralized component in there, right? After that, what we have mainly updated is the account section. So you'll have your space cards there that you can go and create, or you can see what others are building out as well, right? Now, that's the space card sections from here. You can view your cards. You can go to the application and install your applications as well, as we mentioned earlier. And then you can go and build your Web3 website as well from here. So if I go into create my website, start fresh, I can go and start using this editor to create my website, or I can go and integrate streaming from here. So either from Sprout or even Streamyard will be available. So the L1X app version 2 is being updated, right? We are testing it out, and even certain navigational changes are being made. So for example, all your applications, you can see it in one place. There will be a DeFi section, gaming section coming up. And we have also made it simpler for people to understand what's new, right? So how to, have each and every component, like whatever is available, how to create your own cards. We'll be having videos on them as well. So all this is being worked on in the backend, and probably sometime this month we'll start opening it up to certain people. But our goal is that by the end of next month, the version 2 should be opened up to multiple, like almost half of the username holders.
Excellent. That looks really cool. I know that the team's been working really hard. Design team and front end team have been really working hard on the L1X app. And then, so just to know, the username, does that become now, if I create a website, that becomes the domain name?
Yeah, exactly. And this is where your username, can be used to navigate people to your cards or your website. But this is where the L1X identity comes in, right? So the ability to identify yourself on the L1X protocol, and when you share that information, sharing that information with identity, the access control contract. So that is one use case that we can demonstrate, even with which is using XTalk basically as well, right? Apart from the gaming. So the swaps, balancer pool, the access control, and the gaming are what we are pushing. But at this month, my focus is on the DeFi side, right? Just making sure the swaps are, bug free. They work perfectly, so that at least it gives us the ability for giving the developers the copy paste mechanism to go and adopt this. But for now, the focus is on swaps, because that's something that people use already on a day-to-day basis, right? So let's just get that liquidity going so that we can demonstrate these swaps, actually comparing it to likes of Stargate and Squid Router, where it becomes an everyday thing for people, Yep.
And I absolutely. And I think so someone just asked what time zone, what time zone was the opening going to be? Is it going to be UTC time zone? Look, I would more than likely say it's probably going to be a UTC time zone. But once again, make sure you're in and around the Discord to ensure that you can get in early on that. Joe, anything you want to say, mate? Or?
Yeah, no, I think that's it. Obviously, we'll push all updates as well through in the Discord, so that's going to be the place of launch. So make sure you're in there, make sure you're connected, make sure you've got the announcements on ping, because we'll put the date, we'll put the time and everything in there, and that'll be the best place to get updated as well. And as you now know, that's the first place that's going live. So inside that community is the best place to be, regardless of the information. So even with the information, it's just a touch better.
Yeah, I totally agree, mate. I totally agree. No, I just want to say thank you. Thank you to you, Kevin, for spending the time to go through all this. Yeah, thank you, Joe. We've covered a lot, right? We've covered a lot. And
massive thanks to everybody, especially Matthew, Kevin, for being on, and I think giving the community a top level overview too of everything, with prepared strategy as well to explain things, because I think some of us are totally lost, but then there's also some of us that are like, I understand that a lot better now and how it fits in and how it's working towards what the end goal is. And it gives a really good perspective from the team side to the community side. And it's an excellent joiner. So massive thanks to you guys. I think that's probably mostly it. We'll take excerpts out of this and get an update too for anybody that missed out on some of the scripting, so everybody's informed. But I think that's pretty much it. If good from everybody's end, we'll wrap it up.
Yeah, excellent. Thank you, everybody.
Awesome.
Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.
Bye.